Life doesn't always start at the finish line. There are people who are born into hardship, grow up surrounded by harsh choices, yet still carry within them a flame quietly burning, persistent, and resilient despite the storms. They may not have a favorable start, nor paths lined with roses, but they rise from the mud like pure lotuses blooming in a deep pond. Nam is one of those people. Nam was born in a small village where the rain would drip through the patched thatched roof of his family's old cottage. His parents, humble farmers with calloused hands and sun-darkened skin, worked tirelessly just to keep the family fed. Though poor, Nam grew up with a warm heart. He always shared his crispy rice crust with his little sister and the neighborhood children. Compassion was his strength, but also his weakness. He often forgot about himself while caring for others. From a young age, Nam dreamed of becoming successful not for wealth, but to spare his parents from begging each harvest season. He would often sit under the old almond tree at the end of the village, watching cargo trucks rumble by, imagining a future where he could bring a better life to his family. But for a poor village boy, dreams often felt as distant as the moon. At age 15, a crisis struck the family. Nam's uncle, his father's older brother, returned after years of doing business away from home. Though wealthy, he was greedy and cold. He demanded back the small piece of farmland Nam's father was cultivating, their family's only means of survival. "This land is mine. You're not getting it for free," he said harshly, as Nam's father stood silently, hands trembling. Deeply troubled, Nam dropped out of school to work at the county market to support his family. During flood days, collecting scrap or hauling goods under the burning sun, Nam bit his lip and endured. Once, after seeing his mother cry from his uncle's insults, Nam handed over all his hard-earned wages in hopes his uncle would leave them alone. But the man just sneered and called him a fool. The conflict escalated when his uncle brought in bulldozers to destroy the farmland, leaving the family with nothing. In despair, Nam stood before his parents and declared, "I'll return to school. I'll become successful. I'll take back everything that was ours." But to do so, he had to sacrifice one precious thing: time with his family. Nam left the village for the city, carrying with him a promise to his mother that one day he would return a changed man. In the city, Nam faced a completely unfamiliar world: bright lights, bustling streets, and the constant roar of engines. On his first day, he got lost in a night market, clutching his cloth bag with a few worn clothes, surrounded by strangers. He eventually found work as a construction laborer on the outskirts. Each morning, Nam woke at 4 a.m., squeezing onto packed buses to reach the site. Under scorching sun, he carried bricks until his hands bled. Once, when a fellow worker had an accident, Nam gave up his entire month's wage for medicine, even if it meant going hungry for days, surviving on water alone. At night, he slept in a shabby room with mice scurrying in the ceiling. On sleepless nights, he stared through the tiny window at the glowing skyscrapers downtown, wondering if he would ever belong. But remembering the sorrow in his mother's eyes, Nam would sit up and study an old mechanic's textbook by a dim yellow light. Nam enrolled in a vocational program, majoring in mechanical engineering. The tuition was a heavy burden, so he took on a side job as a waiter in a small eatery. There, he saw all walks of life, from the wealthy to day laborers, and even homeless people begging for leftovers. Once, he saw a little girl selling lottery tickets being chased away by the owner. Nam secretly gave her a bowl of rice with side dishes, knowing he'd be penalized. Sure enough, he lost the job, but her grateful smile made it all worthwhile. The hardships didn't stop. Once, Nam lost all his savings when scammed while buying a used laptop for his coursework. That night, he sat under a bridge, tears streaming, ready to give up. But then he remembered his father's words: "No one can take away your will. Nam wiped his tears, stood up, and found another job. He started delivering goods by bicycle, rain or shine, until he saved enough to continue studying. Years passed, and Nam's determination bore fruit. He graduated with honors from vocational school and was hired by a small firm in the city center. The office was just as he had imagined: glass doors, cool air conditioning, and people typing away at sleek computers. With relentless effort and creativity, Nam rose through the ranks. He learned everything from team management to business strategy. But what earned him respect wasn't just skill, it was his heart. He listened, supported his team, even if it meant staying late every night. One day, the company faced a financial crisis. Nam had two choices: play it safe or risk everything on a bold rescue plan. He chose the latter. The plan succeeded, saving the company, and at 35, Nam was appointed CEO. From a poor village boy, he had become the head of a major company, just like he had once dreamed. But success never made Nam forget his roots. He returned to the village, built a new home for his parents, and founded a scholarship fund for poor children. As for his now elderly uncle, Nam held no grudges. He invited him to dinner, sharing meals, even if the pain of the past still lingered. "I forgive, but I don't forget," Nam said quietly. Nam had achieved his dream, but at a cost: years apart from family, deteriorating health, and scars that never fully healed. He often sat beneath the old almond tree, now fully grown, watching children play and thinking his struggle wasn't just for himself, but to light the way for others. Even as a CEO, Nam kept waking up early, commuting by subway, and carrying a small notebook. Inside weren't just work notes, but emotions, old memories, and the name of a girl: Lynn, the girl with expressive eyes who entered his life when he was still a poor student, working part-time in a suburban diner. Lynn was a confident Vietnamese international student in media studies, dreaming of working at a big TV network. They met on a rainy night. Nam gave her his umbrella and quietly returned to the kitchen, soaked, while Lynn watched him in surprise. From then on came shared meals, late-night walks, and quiet conversations. Lynn taught Nam to appreciate small, sweet things, like a warm cocoa after a long day or a silent hand squeeze in a busy crowd. But love in poverty is like planting seeds on rocky ground. It needs a lot of luck to bloom. Lynn was used to comfort, while Nam was always overwhelmed with work and study. She often felt like a visitor in his world, a world chasing the future, burdened with duty, leaving little room for emotions. "You're always strong," she once said gently, "but I need a man who can be vulnerable with the one he loves." Nam didn't respond. In his head were unpaid tuition, a probation job, and a leaking rooftop. He couldn't promise anything. Then, Lynn received an internship scholarship in New York. Before leaving, she left Nam a letter. "I'm not leaving because I stopped loving you. I'm leaving because I'm afraid I'll lose myself if I stay. If one day you stop living just to strive, find me." The door closed. Lynn vanished like she had never existed in those hurried dinners or unfinished dreams. Nam buried the pain like he had buried hunger and tears as a child. He poured himself into work, climbing every step with knowledge, ethics, trust, and persistence. Yet in lonely office nights, looking out from the 20th floor, Nam still felt empty. Sometimes during meetings, a laugh sounding like Lynn's would pause his heart. The city gave him everything: fame, money, power, but it took away the simplest things. Once, during a university talk, someone asked, "What's your greatest life achievement?" Nam paused for a long moment and said, "That I kept a soft heart and still hope one day I can hold the hand of the one I lost and walk in the rain." Nam didn't answer. He didn't know what to say. His mind was filled with unpaid tuition fees, a probationary job, and a leaky rented room that dripped with every heavy rain. He didn't dare make any promises. Then one day, Lynn received an internship scholarship in New York. Before leaving, she left Nam a letter. "I'm not leaving because I stopped loving you. I'm leaving because I'm afraid that if I stay, I'll lose myself. If one day you stop merely surviving and start living, come find me." The door closed. Lynn disappeared as if she had never existed in those hurried dinners or those unfinished dreams. Nam buried the pain deep inside, just like he once hid hunger, exhaustion, and the tears of childhood. He threw himself into work, climbed the ladder step by step, proving himself not just with knowledge, but with ethics, trust, and unwavering determination. But in the quiet of late nights, sitting alone in his 20th floor office with city lights pouring through the glass, Nam still felt empty. Sometimes, in the middle of important meetings, the sound of someone laughing like Lynn would make his heart pause. The city had given him everything: fame, money, power, but it also took from him the simplest things. Once, while speaking as a guest at a university, Nam shared his life journey. At the end of the talk, someone asked, "What do you consider your greatest achievement in life?" Nam looked at the audience for a long time before answering, "That I still have a tender heart, and that I still hope one day I can walk in the rain holding the hand of the one I once lost." The seminar ended. The company Nam led recovered from crisis and expanded into international markets. He was busy with business trips, conferences, and community projects. Each day was packed with schedules, but inside him there was still an unfilled space, until one day, at a conference on technology innovation and social responsibility, Nam unexpectedly met Mai, a young architect who had worked on affordable housing projects for the homeless in California. Mai was unlike anyone Nam had ever met. She didn't care for fame, expensive watches, or polished speeches. She cared about the land and its people, the marginalized, the unheard lives. When Nam asked what made her choose such a tough path, Mai simply smiled, "Because I believe a home is not just a shelter from the rain and sun. It's a place to begin again." That one sentence stirred something in Nam's heart. He had once dreamed of such a home, a place where his parents wouldn't have to bow to anyone, where a poor boy could redraw his life. They began talking more. At first, emails about work, then late-night calls, then slow coffee dates that neither of them wanted to end. Mai didn't ask much about Nam's past or care about his current success. She paid attention to the person within him, the calluses on his hands, the distant gaze at sunsets, the silence when he mentioned his mother. With Mai, Nam didn't have to prove anything. He could breathe, be vulnerable, talk about collecting recyclables in his youth without fearing pity. She listened with her heart, not with judgment. Once, during a small picnic in the suburbs, Mai shared her dream to build a village for orphans, a place where they could learn, play, and be loved like any other children. Nam was silent for a long time. Then he held her hand and said, "If you draw it, I'll build it." This love came gently, not loud like youthful romance, but warmer and deeper. It didn't need grand promises, but was built on small acts: a home-cooked meal, a folded scarf, a text asking, "Did you get home safe?" Mai didn't replace Lynn. She didn't come to fill a void in Nam's life, but to walk beside him and sketch a new future together. And for the first time in many years, Nam felt peace in his heart. He and Mai decided to leave the city and live in a rural area on the outskirts, a place of green tea hills, winding dirt roads, and night skies full of stars, unclouded by city lights. They chose a small plot by the river, built a simple wooden house, where every morning Mai watered the plants, Nam brewed tea, and they watched the sunrise together on the porch. Nam still managed his company remotely, but spent most of his time on community projects, building homes for the poor, funding scholarships, and most importantly, making Mai's dream come true, the village for orphans. That village was named New Dawn, a place where abandoned children were welcomed, loved, and allowed to live as themselves. Nam often told the children stories about the old almond tree in his village, about sharing rice crust with his sister, and about the hardships that shaped who he was. Nam's parents, now old, lived with him in a small house near the hills. Every afternoon, they sat on bamboo chairs, watching their foster grandchildren play in the yard, feeling a rare, deep peace. His eldest uncle had passed away, taking with him the burden of hatred. Nam visited the grave, quietly laying a white lotus as a final farewell. One drizzly day, Nam stood under the eaves, watching raindrops drip from the fresh red tiles. Mai brought out a hot cup of tea, rested her head on his shoulder, and asked, "You once said you'd come back when your life had changed. What about now?" Nam gently squeezed her hand and smiled. "Now I don't need to go anywhere. This is my dream, being with you, and with the ones I love." From dirt roads to city lights, then back to where it all began, Nam had closed his journey with love, kindness, and forgiveness. And the most beautiful part of all, he didn't just rewrite his own life, he lit the way for many others.